You're scrolling through a dating profile, 6 photos, a carefully written bio, a filter that lets you swipe past a human being in half a second. For 95% of human history, a man never once chose a wife this way. He didn't pick a face out of a crowd. He didn't fall for a smile across a room. In most of recorded history, the man barely got a vote at all. So how did marriage, the most personal decision you'll ever make, spend thousands of years as something almost entirely out of the groom's hands? The short answer is, he didn't choose. Not the way you think. The long answer is way more interesting. Picture the highlands of New Guinea, 1970s. Anthropologist Mervyn Meggitt spent years documenting the May-Enga people, tracing how marriages actually formed outside the world of romance novels. A man didn't select a wife by attraction. His entire clan negotiated with another clan. Pigs changed hands. Land boundaries shifted. A woman moved from one group to another as a living seal on a political contract between men who barely knew her. Love wasn't the currency. Alliance was. What does this mean? It means marriage. For most of human history, wasn't a decision made by 2 people. It was a transaction made by 2 families, using 2 people as the paperwork. Now, some of you are thinking, sure, but that's one tribe. Surely ancient civilizations were more romantic than that. Fair question. The answer comes from Babylon, 1750 BCE, Mesopotamia. Stone tablets carved under torchlight. Historian Martin Stahl, who spent decades studying Babylonian family law, documented something written directly into the Code of Hammurabi. A marriage wasn't valid unless a contract existed. A literal tablet listing a bride price paid by the groom's family to the bride's father. No tablet, no marriage. The union simply didn't legally exist. A man wasn't picking a soulmate. He was closing a deal with a father as the negotiator and a daughter as the asset. One tablet, one price, one signature pressed into wet clay. Done. Now cross-check it. Rapid fire. The May-Enga in New Guinea trading pigs for brides. The Babylonians trading silver for brides. The Yoruba of West Africa historically negotiating bride price in cattle and cowrie shells between families before a groom ever met his bride face to face. 3 continents. 0 overlap. Same invisible rule book. Marriage was infrastructure, not intimacy. Some of you are thinking, fine, but what about actual romantic love in ancient times? Surely someone somewhere married for feelings first. Fair question. The answer comes from Sparta, 650 BCE, ancient Greece. A city obsessed with strength, not sentiment. Historian Sarah Pomeroy, who researched Spartan women extensively, documented a marriage custom that still unsettles modern readers. A Spartan groom didn't court his bride. On the wedding night, a female attendant shaved the bride's head, dressed her in men's clothing, and left her alone in a dark room. The groom entered in secret, consummated the marriage quickly, and returned to his military barracks before dawn. Some Spartan husbands, historians note, didn't see their wife's face in daylight for years. Not romance. Ritual. Zoom out across the ocean. Among the Yanomami people of the Amazon, anthropologist Napoleon Chagnon spent years documenting marriage patterns in the 1960s and 70s. Men frequently married through a practice called cross-cousin alliance, promising infant girls to adult men decades their senior, sealing peace between villages that had recently been at war. A groom might wait 15 years for his promised bride to reach adulthood. He wasn't choosing love, he was collecting on a promise made before she could walk. 15 years, 1 promise. 0 say from the woman involved. Done. What does this mean for the wedding you pictured at the very start? It means the entire idea of choosing a wife based on personal chemistry is almost embarrassingly new. Now, some of you are thinking, okay, but there must be exceptions. Some ancient culture that actually let people choose first. Fair question. The answer comes from Ireland. 700 CE, early medieval Ireland under the Brehon laws. Legal historian Fergus Kelly, who translated much of the surviving Brehon legal texts, found something startling compared to the rest of Europe at the time. Irish women, under certain contract types, could initiate divorce, could retain property, could in some documented cases choose a husband based on compatibility, not just family alliance. An outlier, a crack of individual choice in an ocean of arranged contracts. But even here, most marriages still ran through family negotiation first. Choice was the exception. Contract was the rule. Let's go back even further. Before writing, before law codes, before Sparta, Babylon, and clay tablets. Evolutionary anthropologist Sarah Blaffer Hurdy, studying primate and early human mating patterns, found something uncomfortable buried in our biology. Early human males likely competed for mates through resource display and alliance building with other males, not solitary romantic pursuit. A man with strong hunting allies, strong kin networks, strong reputation got chosen, not by the individual woman alone, but by an entire web of relatives evaluating him as a long-term investment in survival. Love, if it existed, was a bonus, not the requirement. One hunter, one reputation, one entire family calculating risk before a single word of affection was exchanged. Done. Now picture something stranger. The Wodaabe people of Niger, still practicing this today, studied extensively by anthropologist Mette Bovan throughout the 1980s and 90s. At the annual Garawal festival, it's the men who dress elaborately, painting their faces, whitening their teeth, performing hours of dance. Women watch, women judge, women choose. A near total reversal of the pattern seen almost everywhere else in ancient and traditional societies. Proof that how humans choose mates was never one universal rule book. It was hundreds of different experiments running in isolation on every continent for tens of thousands of years. Cross-check it once more. 3 unexpected reversals. The Wodaabe in Niger, where men perform and women select. The Mosuo of southwestern China, studied by anthropologist Kai Hua through the 1990s, where women historically kept their own households and simply welcomed a chosen partner at night. No marriage contract required at all. The Nair of southern India, documented by anthropologist Kathleen Goff, where a woman could take multiple visiting husbands across her lifetime, with no single man expected to provide or stay. 3 cultures, 3 continents, 0 resemblance to the story you were taught was universal. There was never one ancient rule book. There were thousands, running quietly, in parallel, most of them forgotten. What does this mean, standing back at that altar from the beginning? It means the moment you pictured 2 people freely choosing each other because of how they feel isn't ancient tradition. It's a modern invention historians trace largely to the 18th and 19th centuries, when reduced parental control and rising individual wages let people, for the first time in mass numbers, prioritize personal preference over family strategy. Historian Stephanie Kuntz, who wrote extensively on the history of marriage, traced this shift precisely. For most of recorded history, love was considered a dangerous reason to marry. Too unstable, too selfish, too likely to threaten alliances between families who needed marriage to function like a peace treaty, not a feeling. Marrying for love wasn't romantic to ancient societies. It was reckless. Some of you are thinking, but surely somewhere, a man just saw a woman and simply knew. Maybe, once, twice, in 10,000 years of recorded weddings. Historians call those stories myths for a reason. They survived precisely because they were rare enough to be worth telling. And here's the part that breaks the comfortable idea that this is all safely in the past. Sociologist Ashley Kamar, researching contemporary marriage practices across South Asia in the 2000s, found that arranged marriages still account for the majority of unions in India today. Over 1 billion people choosing partners the same way the Mayenga did, the same way Babylon did, right now, in the same decade you're watching this. Families still meet first, photographs still get exchanged before faces do, compatibility still gets negotiated by parents before a single date happens. Not a relic, a living system running in parallel to yours, on a third of the planet. So somewhere between a Babylonian clay contract and a modern wedding altar, something quietly flipped. Marriage stopped being a tool families used to survive together and became a promise 2 individuals make, hoping feeling alone is strong enough to hold a household up. Zoom back to the beginning, that phone in your hand, that swipe, that filter, that face chosen out of a crowd of strangers. It feels effortless, private, entirely yours. It's actually one of the strangest experiments in the entire history of the species. A wager that a single, unverified feeling is enough to build a lifetime on, with no clan, no cattle, no clay tablets standing behind it, no pigs exchanged outside your door, no father negotiating a price, no infant promise made 15 years before you ever met, just you, a screen, a feeling you're trusting completely, a bet almost no generation before yours was ever allowed to place alone. For 95% of human history, no one would have understood that idea, not because ancient people couldn't love, but because love was never considered a safe enough reason to build a family on. Somewhere between a Spartan bride's shaved head and a swipe on a lit up screen, we didn't invent romance. We simply decided for the first time that it was allowed to be the reason.